Hello, welcome to Philosophy All Along. I'm a professional philosopher, and I like to apply the tools of philosophy to the things I love, like Stranger Things, to help me understand them on a deeper level. So I think that there are three big questions that come out of season 5 of Stranger Things that reveal who the narrative tells us needs to die. Now, that doesn't mean that the Duffer brothers are actually going to kill them off. As you can already tell, the Duffer brothers are very disinclined to kill off core characters, right? They give them a whole lot of plot armor. But the story that they're telling seems to kind of necessitate, or at least suggest, kind of hint that certain people probably need to go. So these questions, I think you're going to think that they have obvious answers, but when you dig a little bit deeper, you'll see, man, no, there's actually a lot here. All right, so let's go through them real quick. So the questions are, number one, why is Dustin so mad at Steve? Number two, where is Max exactly? And number three, how did Will get his powers? So number one, Dustin being mad at Steve doesn't make as much sense as it seems like, because if it's about Eddie's death and people not showing enough kind of respect or concern for that fact, well, the other boys are actually the ones who knew Eddie best and were part of the group, and they've kind of moved on. So if he's mad at anyone, it really should be them. But he is showing some frustration with them, but he's getting along pretty well with them in comparison with Steve, who he is really just kind of trashing. So why Steve? Is it just some sort of just displaced anger? Well, very likely it is. But a lot of it also has to do with the fact that both Eddie and Steve provided a similar role for Dustin, a kind of mentorship, a kind of like, oh, let's kind of guide him into being his own person. So number one, mentors have to die, right? That's just kind of a standard trope. You got to get rid of the Obi-Wan Kenobis and you got to get rid of the Dumbledores so that the hero can kind of be their own person. So that's already one problem that Steve has. But it's also interesting because when you think about it, Eddie's death was kind of needless. I don't mean that they didn't need to go and distract, the demo bats and stuff like that. What I mean is that when Eddie saves Dustin, basically, right, he gets these bats to chase after him, there's a point when he decides to stop running, even though they're chasing him, right? So it's not a matter of like, oh, I better distract them more. They're already super distracted, right? He's getting them away from Dustin and away from the portal. But he just decides he doesn't want to run anymore, period. And the result of that is that he's killed. I think Dustin has some sense of that, because when Dustin goes and talks to him, he's basically saying, I didn't run. But notice that means that Dustin both saw his death, but also saw the demo bats basically, fall to the ground. And so what you have to realize, if you're Dustin, is had Eddie just run for like another couple of minutes, he probably would have survived. So there's a certain sense in which the death is both deeply meaningful, right? Eddie's super brave and saves everyone, but also like had he just run a little bit longer, he would have lived. So Dustin has to probably be feeling a bit like, am I really worth this? Right? It's a little meaningless. Am I really worth this awesome person who I really cared about, who I really love's death? And so Steve is, I think, in a lot of ways, a reminder of how dangerous it is to care for Dustin, and that people can be taken away both in meaningful ways, but also kind of meaningless ways. So one thing we realize is that Dustin doesn't have a whole lot of reason to believe that he's worth dying for right now, since that death at the end of the day really didn't kind of save everybody. It just could have gone a bit differently. So I think that killing Steve in order to save Dustin is a way for Steve to show Dustin, no, you really are worth dying for, to kind of prove Eddie's point. The danger, of course, is that means that you kill two people that Dustin really loves, and it really traumatizes the poor kid. But it certainly would be something that at least acts as a means by which of showing that he's really cared about and loved. I will say also that there's this problem that Steve has of having this great character arc already. He's grown, he's changed, he's a much better person than he was in those, initial episodes of season 1. And so there becomes a point where can the character go than backwards. Well, we don't want to see him go backwards. So how does he go forward? Well, by letting the young person who he's now taught move on and move forward. Okay, so where is Max? Again, this seems obvious. Like, she's in Vecna's mind. She gives us a whole exposition, right? We actually see that happen. One of the things that's interesting to note is that was foreshadowed by the fact that Elle couldn't find Max back in season 4, right? She goes looking for her. She cannot find her. And then when she can't find Vecna and when she can't find Holly, you realize, oh, it's probably Max who's in there. Max is probably the person that seems to be kind of running around, in the background somewhere there, because Max is also not findable in the same way that it seems that Vecna is. Okay, so she's in the mind, but she noticed that she's in a particular part of Vecna's mind. There's a part that she's in that's kind of like this, caves area, this like desert caves area, that it seems that Vecna is unwilling to go. There's something about a memory there that's too traumatic or damaging to him for him to be able to enter. So she has a power. She's like literally in his head, right? She has a significant power over Vecna and now has the ability to help protect an essential victim who, for Vecna, Holly isn't just someone that he's going to be able to use for whatever unnamed purpose, but also is someone who has this connection to these other people that he wants to hurt. So she's very symbolic. So Max being able to protect her is especially important. And so something about this memory is really going to matter. It's going to be really important in the next stages of the show. But the reason why this issue suggests that Max needs to die is, well, think about it. Well, Max kind of has to stay where she is because it's the most powerful place that she currently is. If she wakes up out of her coma, well, she's been there for an extended period of time, so she's probably incredibly weak. The fact that she's been laying there in a coma probably means that she can't get on her skateboard and help everyone physically fight Vecna. So where does she really have her power? She really has her power in Vecna's mind, which means that she has the ability to do things to him that pretty much no one else, including Elle, has the ability to do. And it's really a significant moment if she takes that opportunity both to damage Vecna, but also to save Holly. And that's important because she has an opportunity now to be a big sister. Billy was obviously this horrible and abusive older brother who in the last moments decides to redeem himself by saving his little sister. Max has clearly significant trauma and issues with that fact and hasn't been able to navigate it and is weak to Vecna because of that. Now with Holly there, she has the opportunity to be the big sister, to be the big sibling that her brother never was. So she can also redeem herself as someone who's blaming herself like for his death and for kind of wanting him to die. She has the opportunity to redeem herself by saving Holly, which, if it's kind of a mirror moment, means that she would sacrifice herself similarly. But in this case, not as I was horrible to you the whole time, but in this case, I'm showing you what a sibling should do and should be like. Okay, so the last one. Where the heck did Will get his powers? Well, again, it seems kind of obvious, right? He clearly has Vecna powers, right? The way that he engages with the Demogorgons that he's kind of breaking, it's literally the same thing that Vecna does. Now, one thing we need to remember about Henry I Vecna is that Vecna gets his power in part by killing other people and kind of taking their powers. So that means that Will, probably because of his connection to Vecna, right? Vecna has, took him and he's been connected to him for an extended period of time, that there's kind of a back and forth quality to it. It's not just a matter of like, oh, I was just connected to him. It's specific to Vecna's power and the fact that it might be more of a two-way street, right? I'm getting people's powers by killing them, but also by being connected to them, I can kind of leak into them as well, and they can start to gain my power. And it seems to me to kind of make sense that Vecna lies, just like Papa lies. Right? There's a lot of similarity between the two of them. And so he says that he's choosing these children because they're weak and weak-minded, and really trying to make Will feel like that's why Will was chosen, because he's also weak and weak-minded. But Vecna lies. So it's entirely possible that he chooses them because they're particularly good conduits. They might be people who are like more open or more capable of seeing. Now, we want to be careful about saying like basically every kid in Hawkins is somehow a potential 11. But they could be people who just happen to be a little bit more open psychically. And Will might have been chosen specifically because of that. And so him being more open psychically and being chosen because of that and being someone that Vecna was like, oh, I have something really in store for you. Well, he was chosen for a specific reason. And that connection has resulted in Will gaining those powers. Now, to me, what's particularly interesting about that is with Vecna kind of dismissing him, it makes him very similar to the way that Papa treated Henry. In other words, Will is to Vecna what Vecna is to Papa, right? He's literally one for Vecna. He's Vecna's first experiment. So the problem is, of course, well, one, people are like, well, what is he going to do with these powers afterwards? Now, there's been a lot of hints kind of from the Duffer brothers that, well, the solution to that is just kind of to take his powers away at the end. The concern there is okay, well, he gains his powers in part by coming to self-realization, right? To accepting himself and realizing who he is okay. Just being a gay person, it's okay. He accepts himself. If you take his powers away at the end, it kind of retcons that whole story. Now, you might just be able to say, oh, well, no, he still accepts himself. It's just like Vecna's died, and so he no longer has access to the power conduit that he's using. He's just acting as a conduit, channeling it. But the fact that he gains that power in such a big and significant moment by coming to accept who he really is, you take the powers away, it does at least kind of mirror the idea that he's like always going to feel like there's something about himself that's missing. But also, there's something to be said for if he is kind of the stand-in at this point, for one, right, he has the opportunity to then show what someone actually should do with the kinds of powers that he has. And his powers are very, very specific to Vecna. That results in the fact that he, again, kind of like Max, has an ability to do more damage to Vecna in ways that are specific to him and his powers than 11 does. I do think that that also suggests that there's some other interesting options. Not only can he sacrifice himself in order to save everyone, thereby showing what someone should actually do with Vecna's powers, but he also could be potentially in the position of kind of imprisoning Vecna in some way, like kind of being stuck in the Upside Down and sacrificing him this way in a really kind of traumatic ending. Now, the Duffer brothers have signaled that they do not want to red wedding everyone. And these are not things that are them definitely showing who should die and why they should die. Rather, they are things that the narrative is kind of suggesting, oh, here's what they should do and here's how they should do it. I think with that in mind, there is really a question of, at the end of the day, are the Duffer brothers going to do what the story needs, or are they going to save their characters because they love their characters so much? That being said, I would love to see, Max sacrifice herself, these different sacrifices, and then have a post-credit scene where you see the little medical monitor for Max, it's just like beep, and then you just see like that one beep. That could be kind of fun and cool. Thank you so much for watching. If you disagree, if I'm missing all kinds of things, please blow me up in the comments. Glad to see it. Glad to have a conversation about it. Let me know what I missed, what you think, or what I might have gotten right. If you enjoyed this, please do like and subscribe. I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.